Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. So RFK Jr., when he gave his speech was it Friday, when he announced that he was dropping out of the swing states and he was going to endorse Donald Trump, CNN cut away from that. And you want to watch how it happened? I
saw. Yeah.
So watch this. I got this from Christy Tallman's Twitter feed. Watch this.
My uncle and my father both relish debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35.
So he's telling you the truth about the horribleness of what the Democratic Party is currently doing. They're installing a president. They're not using a democratic process. They're installing someone after they cooed Joe Biden, who got 14 million votes in the primary. So he's explaining that to you, and she's explaining that Kamala Harris hasn't even taken a question in how many days since she's been installed she hasn't even, I don't know, is it 5 weeks?
Jimmy, I don't care. I'm so afraid of Trump that he's my bin Laden now.
So
do whatever you guys have to do to destroy my freedoms to get that bad bin Laden.
Yep. He's the new. So watch this. So watch as he starts to say this, watch what CNN does. I'll start at the beginning.
My uncle and my father both relish debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days.
We've been listening to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from Phoenix outlining what led him to his quixotic quest for the White House to now dropping out and relinquishing the title of
his quixotic.
Oh, so he was tilting at windmills with that all that stuff about the pharmaceuticals and the poisons in the environment. That's all just a windmill.
What's the definition of a quixotic?
Don Quixote.
Exceedingly idealistic, unrealistic, and impractical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
His quixotic. So they immediately, as soon as he starts to tell the truth about Kamala Harris and the horribleness of the Democratic Party's pretend primary and this rigged process they went through, she is installed by the donor class. Billionaires handpicked Kamala Harris to be president. And as he starts to explain that she's not even taking questions, hasn't done an unscripted question even from a voter. CNN like, whoa, we can't let people know that. And they immediately cut in. And I'm going to play, here's the part they didn't want you to hear. Here's the part they most didn't want. There was a lot of great stuff. His press conference was about healing the health of America, healing the children's health. Half of kids are obese. Only 3% of kids in Japan are obese. Did you know that? He's talking about the corruption of our regulatory, the USDA, the FDA, the CDC, and and Big Agra, and the garbage that they put in our food. Our food is poison. And this is what they did, but this is the most they didn't want you to hear, this part.
Instead of showing us her substance and character, the DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus. There, in Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate? In contrast, at the RNC convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days.
Yeah, so all the major news networks are obviously owned by Big Pharma, and it's obvious that they don't mind looking like dishonest pieces of garbage, shutting down someone who is pointing out that they are dishonest pieces of garbage. And that's what they did. Once again, Donald Trump was a gift presented to the Democrats like Venus on the half shell. That's right. I want that image stuck in your head all day. Without Donald Trump, the Democrats would have to come up with something actually relevant to say about who funds them. But they have. Go ahead.
He's an astrological sign at this point for them. Who writes the copy that these reporters say? Because it's none of those moron reporters. Who's the person writing that crap when they go his quixotic run for president? I'll bet you that's somebody out of the government. Who the hell is writing that? They have to be directly connected to like Intel or Deep State or somebody, right?
And they cut him off just as he's telling the crowd about how he's being deliberately blocked out of the democratic process. Yeah. And then they interject that his quest is quixotic.
Yeah.
That analogy doesn't even apply because the windmills were not deliberately running defense against every single thing Don Quixote tried to do.
Yeah, right. The windmills were not the establishment powers, were they?
Right.
Like Europe wasn't ruled by windmills. I mean, now I guess it is in a way.
And just in case there was any doubt in your mind, nothing works as well as just cutting the guy off completely. I mean, look at his numbers. So here was his numbers. So these are all swing states. He was getting 5 points, almost 6%, 5%, 5%, 6%, almost 5, 4.5, 4.5, 4. Those are big numbers. You give
anybody who liked him, yeah.
You give those numbers to Trump, and he's squashing Harris in all those swing states.
And by the way, I'll bet he's already squashing her without RFK.
I bet,
because
yeah.
I don't believe none of those numbers.
So nothing works better than just cut the guy off. If you want to bring those numbers down, just make sure he doesn't get any. Don't let anybody hear his message. It's like if you want to lose weight, you have to stop eating so much. If you want to lose RFK Jr. from the election, you have to cut down on what he gets to say on television. Because the more he says on television, the more popular he becomes to people.
I don't think they've built up enough of an army of childless gender blob cat people to really pull this off. The people that are not going to notice you just cut him off, they were already voting for Kamala. Like anybody that was liked him and watched you do that, they're going to have the same process that RFK had, or his vice president. Watching the chick going for vice president, how she was almost in tears, realizing that the DNC actually is.
You mean?
And you're like, did you not know, sweetie? Is that real? She must have not known.
You mean Shanahan? You mean RFK's vice president?
We were watching it, and I was like, this chick didn't even know?
Like, you didn't know this was, like, it was funny to me when RFK came on my show the first time, and I was like, dude, it's a fool's errand. You're running as like, how do you not know this? How did you not see what happened to Bernie twice? What do you think they're going to do to you? What do you, it just seems silly. But
yeah, they don't. These people, the higher up you go,
they had
the
to.
more
they had
stupid
to,
they are.
They had to experience it themselves. So they cut from RFK Jr.'s speech because they don't want to hear him tell the truth about what happened in the Democratic primary. That the donor class installed Kamala Harris, who hasn't taken a question from done an unscripted question from a voter or done an interview with a news person, not even a friendly one. Nothing.
Finally.
Right? So they cut from that, and they cut over to there they are. They cut from that. And who do they cut to? They cut to this guy. Watch this. Watch what he says.
Yeah, I was watching that, and Donald Trump last week stood and said, in front of a bunch of groceries and said, I haven't seen any Cheerios in a long time. I had Cheerios for breakfast. This was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And trying to get any logic out of that is good luck with that. Because it's...
What?
He's saying that what RFK was saying was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. First of all, he was giving a speech about how seed oils and the food system in America is poisoning everybody, and we have an explosion of chronic disease and obesity, that children in America, half of them are obese. In Japan, it's 3%. He was talking about...
We don't have enough circuses, Jimmy, to put these fatzos in like we used to have. He said they used to go to the circus. He's not making a mean joke. That is literally the fattest man in the world. From back then, you can find the pictures, was like 400 pounds.
Yes.
It was like, that was the fattest man in the world at the time. You'd have to put him in a carnival.
Now, most of the people at the carnival look like that guy.
It's unbelievable. And,
So RFK is giving a very coherent speech. I'm understanding everything he's saying. Everything he's saying, I'm understanding. He's giving a very coherent speech about the health of America, about how to fight back against the corruption of the USDA, the FDA, the CDC, Big Agra, how to get people eating healthy again. He's got a plan. And he's making a case that you never hear anybody make on television. Why? Because television's bought by all those companies that want to give you those poisons. So they cut from him. And they cut to this guy who's trying to make RFK Jr. The first time I heard somebody make sense on television in a long time, tries to make it sound like he's crazy. So let me show you RFK's speech. Very coherent, very on point. He went from talking about the health of America and how we're being poisoned by our food, which I've been talking about this year a lot. And then he starts to go tell you how bad the anti-democratic Democratic Party is in installing a billionaire-selected Kamala Harris, and then CNN cuts. Watch.
My uncle and my father both relished debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35
We've been
days.
listening.
So that sounds very easy to understand. In fact, I'm enthused about it, and I'm interested in what he has to say. That's very easy to understand. I know what he's saying. Everybody else does too, and it's very powerful. CNN doesn't want you to hear this, so they cut in, right? Watch.
Encounter with voters for 35 days.
We've been listening to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from Phoenix outlining what led him to his quixotic quest for the White House, to now dropping out and relinquishing the title of...
So they come back, there they are, and they bring on this ham job. And listen to what he says.
Yeah, I was watching that, and Donald Trump last week stood and said in front of a bunch of groceries and said, I haven't seen any Cheerios in a long time. I had Cheerios for breakfast. This was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And trying to get any logic out of that is good luck with that.
So that's called an establishment hack who's paid by those companies that RFK Jr. is talking about is poisoning you, and he's paid by the political parties owned by those companies. So he has to come on and make you think that what he was saying was crazy. He said cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Watch.
Because it's, one, you can't understand what he says. Two, if you can't understand what he says. And
so now he's making fun of his vocal quality. He's now making fun of his voice impediment. He's making fun of a handicap that he has, a physical impairment, which I've been told over and over and over, you're not supposed to do that. Who told me that? CNN. Because when Donald Trump, they said he made fun of someone's handicap, that made him the worst person in the world. We heard that this guy's doing that right now. He's pretending you can't understand what RFK Jr. is saying. I 100% understand what RFK Jr. is saying.
You know what I don't understand?
What?
Kamala, I've never understood what in the hell Kamala was talking about. Once, I can't think of one time that I took an idea away from listening to her babble.
So he says you can't understand what RFK Jr. is saying, and even if you can, you still can understand what he's saying because it's all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Watch this.
Reminded of a line in Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles when somebody gets up and gives an indecipherable speech. He says, "Who can argue with that? That's authentic frontier gibberish," and that's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So he's calling what RFK Jr. was saying as gibberish. No, that's an act. He has to say that because it's just like when they call you a conspiracy. They're not afraid of lies. The establishment is afraid of the truth, and that's what RFK Jr. was giving people, and people are hungry for that. They're not hungry for bullshit on CNN, which is why this show's more popular than any show on fucking CNN, and why Joe Rogan is 20 times more popular than the whole network. So, because they give you bullshit, and if it wasn't for Donald Trump, nobody would have watched their show. But anyway, he's trying to make you think that well, here it is again.
Yeah, I was watching that, and Donald Trump last week stood and said in front of a bunch of groceries and said, I haven't seen any Cheerios in a long time. I had Cheerios for breakfast. This was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Now, that's ironic because RFK Jr. was talking about The Trust Stream Media says technically RFK isn't cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because they're filled with the exact chemicals in our food supply that he's concerned are making our children unhealthy. And they list the ingredients. Here's the ingredients. Corn syrup, sugar, flavored chips. Also down here, canola oil, palm kernel oil, high fructose corn syrup, fructose. That's the garbage that's poisoning us and making everyone sick. So it's ironic he said cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because that's exactly what RFK Jr. was talking about, and everybody understood what he was saying. And CNN has to lower themselves to insulting his physical handicap. He probably knows about this, and everyone knows lead makes you cuckoo. Cocoa Puffs lawsuit claims breakfast cereal contains dangerous levels of lead. That's from July 23rd of this year.
Well, you got to get your lead in.
A bowl of Cocoa Puffs with 24% more than the recommended serving size contains 0.53 micrograms of lead, the lawsuit says. That's what the lawsuit says. That's at 132% more. So that's from classaction.org.
Why would they put lead in it?
Classaction.org. Now, I can't vouch for the veracity of those numbers, but I'm saying that's what the lawsuit says. John Paul Berg says they're probably aware that they're losing their monopoly on the dissemination of information. Their desperation to smear people with unsubstantiated ad hominem will not work anymore. Their mask is slipping, revealing the vile swill merchants that lay beneath. Well said. Arya says, that guy sounds like a fixer or a lobbyist. That's exactly what that guy is. He either doesn't have kids or he sold his opinion to Big Pharma.
Or he's a hollow shell that somebody writes what he says, like all those imbeciles on. Not one of them. You saw the guy reading the script, right?
Yeah.
Off his laptop. You saw him reading it. So he didn't write none of that. He just go, quixotic, blah, blah. That's your whole skill being on CNN. Can you read the prompter, right? And then after that, then you try your best to like put a little spin on it like a kid doing a kindergarten report.
You want to hear a real doctor who has a #1 selling book he wrote with another doctor who's his sister who graduated at the top of her medical school class at Stanford. They wrote a book called Good Energy. It's a woman named Casey Means, MD, graduated at the top of her class, and Kaylee Means. That's her brother. They wrote this book called Good Energy. It's all about nutrition. And he came on to talk about RFK Jr.'s quest to make us healthy again. And listen to what he said. Now, you hear the hack from CNN. Listen to what an actual doctor says.
Co-founder of TrueMed and author of the best-selling book, Good Energy, Callie Means, joins us now. Callie, good morning. It was a remarkable night last night. Twitter is blowing up. A lot of Democrats very angry at what's happening, obviously. But talk to me about what you think this...
Oh, by the way, reminds me of a joke Rob Schneider made. He said the Democrats haven't... When RFK dropped out and endorsed Trump, Roseanne tweeted out, the Democrats haven't been this angry since Lincoln ended slavery. Right? So that's very funny. Turns out that's Rob Schneider's joke.
Oh.
Did you know that, Kurt?
No.
I didn't either. Yeah. Here we go.
Partnership, this endorsement will actually mean for this idea of making America healthy again.
Well, Rachel, you've been saying it for over a year. The childhood chronic disease epidemic is the sleeper issue of this campaign. And last night, the forgotten child was thrust squarely into the national conversation. And from my small vantage point, I can tell you that these two men bonded over questions about what's happening to Americans' children. Why are 50% of American teens overweight or obese when it's only 3% in Japan? Why is the American Academy of Pediatrics pushing Ozempic on 6-year-olds instead of healthy food? Why have autism rates gone up orders of magnitude in the past 20 years without changes in screenings? Why have cancer rates been exploding among kids? Why does America have the earliest puberty rate among children among any country in the world because of our endocrine disrupting foods that are in our food supply and our environment? These questions are at the core, I think, of what's been propelling RFK, what's been propelling Trump, what really is the defining political issue in the country, which is this populist frustration with our institutions. And the institutions that profit from sick kids are on notice right now.
Wow, that guy sounds like he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, well, you know what they sound like? They sound like Fox News now, because they're obviously back in Trump. They're going to pretend to care about kids being injured by things when it's that stupid prick Scalia that wrote the decision about why you can't sue the vaccine makers, right?
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's an Antonin Scalia.
I'm going to give them kudos. They're covering it. They're telling people.
By all means, cover it. Cover it by all means. I don't want to take away from that. But it's funny to watch the network that fired Tucker for talking about vaccines in Ukraine.
It is funny. That's a good.
It must really be coming down to the wire for them to switch over like this. But good. Hey, glad to have you telling the truth.
Yes.
I'm sure it won't be for long.
Yes. Just like Cornel West came out and said he wants a vaccine and a COVID commission. Glad to have you.
That's a panic. That's panic instruction because of RFK.
Yes. So anyway, so that's a guy who's got the #1 selling New York Times book on health and nutrition, talking about the exact same things RFK Jr. is talking about. But the guy at CNN will tell you that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Did you see the other? I can't remember what news show was on. He goes, I feel sorry that his wife has to sleep with him. Really? This guy in great shape, RFK Jr.?
Yeah, I know.
You don't feel sorry for Tim Walz and Kamala giving each other the Tim Walz wife firm handshake that he
Who do you think has better tits? JD Vance or Tim Walz? I gotta go Tim Walz, more feminine. Anyway, the point is I forget what the point is. We're gonna jump to Rumble now.
We sure are, Jimmy.
We're gonna jump to Rumble and guess what? What, you want me to read something? We're going to bring in Kurt. You can stick around for this. We have another guest coming on. He's pilots for 9/11. Is it 9/11 Truth? Is that what it's called? Oh, yes. 9/11 pilot whistleblower.
He's the director.
That sounds like a truther, Jimmy. And as you know, I am a 9/11 liar.
All right,
let's go. You don't want to be a truther, do you?
You don't want to be a truth. They've made the term truth toxic. That's how.
Ew, a truther. I'm a good person. I'm a liar.
I like the lies. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made. I saw it, and I was shocked. He's in his 80s, and he's still kicking butt and working out and staying active. He actually is. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. It actually inspired me to stay in shape. Honest. Because, you know what? I want to be in my 80s. I want to be able to still enjoy it, right? I want to be able to enjoy it. Why not? He did this by just making one change. Who did that? Chuck Norris. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing, too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video, which I watched, that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Jimmy or by clicking in the link below this video. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Jimmy. And click on the link in the description below and watch the video. You won't believe how simple it is. Just a reminder that the legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 84 years old and has more energy than me, okay? He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage your body as we age. Watch this method and his method by clicking on the link in the description box below. That's chuckdefense.com/Jimmy. Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.